Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. And if it isn't TV's deadliest duo, Henry Hill and Michael McCubbin. Hey guys.
Hey.
How are we doing?
Yeah, not too bad,
Looking
thanks.
very smart today,
Thank
Michael.
you. Yeah. It's Sky Sports News attire. This I actually borrowed this shirt off my mate. Big up yourself, Tom. Because I don't own much. I don't own
TV stuff.
I'm a scruffy guy. What can I say? But yeah, made our debut together. Well, didn't make our debut, but first time we've been on screen together today.
Yeah, but it was electric on
They
that.
said, "Wow, this is the best partnership."
Yeah,
since Doogie and Zach.
yeah, pretty much. And that's saying something. That is saying something. My mic also, I forgot to turn my mic on at the start of one of the segments, so that was
You did
that's
that
quite
yesterday as well.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Did
no. That's true. That's true. But it wasn't. That was sorted out. This time, I was literally turning it on while I was on screen sort of thing.
Wow.
But they said that's just television.
Makes
it entertaining, doesn't it? Rolling news needs a bit of drama like that.
Absolutely.
So that's good, and we've been on it quite a few times now.
Yeah, we have. It's been good fun. Go check that out. 10 till 12 every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on Sky Sports News.
You would have been on with Zach today, right? As this goes out.
Yes, exactly. Yes, this morning. I think we'll talk about our England 11s, etc. But anyway, enough of that. Let's get on to the hottest topics in European football and the show that covers European football like no other.
Yes, it's
in
true.
This country.
Very true.
I believe. Do you think so?
I can't think of another English-based European chat show looking exclusively at European football. Let us know in the comments, because I'd actually like to see what you guys.
I guess there's probably a few podcasts, isn't there? But in terms of YouTube-based stuff,
I think
at least
from SDS has started a European show, which I'm sure is very good. I haven't checked it out yet. I'm sure it's excellent. But yeah, it's good to see other European content creators there. Exactly. Today, guys, we're talking about elite teams set for terrible seasons. Now, it is very early doors. Let's get that clear. 3 or 4 games into the season in most European leagues, but some of those teams, I should say, aren't looking too pretty at the moment. Let's kick off, McCubs, with FC BMB 1-0 suggestion. I was really struggling with that for some reason. Roma, not been good.
Not been good at all, have they? Really not been good at all. And in some ways you come to expect it. Like, they started last season in pretty poor fashion after a summer in which we were full of praise for their transfer business. And once again, after a summer in which we've been maybe not as enthusiastic about their transfer business. I think they've done some good deals, but I don't think they did enough, really. At least considering how much they sold as well. They're sitting 18th in the league. They're yet to win. It's only, in fact, in Serie A, it's only been 3 games as well. So we're really jumping the gun here. But I think it's still worth talking about. Mourinho has had a poor start to the campaign. That 2-2 draw with Salernitana, in which actually they created the bulk of the opportunities. They should have put Salernitana away. However, they did have to come from behind in the end to actually draw that match. So in terms of game state, maybe that had something to do, had played a part. I mean, in the kind of XG of that match, and then they were very well beaten by Verona and Milan. Clearly, the inferior side in both those games. They failed to actually create one expected goal against Verona or Milan. So, yeah, Mourinho beaten well on both occasions. And actually, that Milan game was his first time back on the touchline. He had that touchline ban at the start of the season for insulting referees last term. So he missed the first 2 games. And then, Pioli shushed him during the Milan game. So
brilliant.
Really has been emasculated.
He's more than a manager these days.
But it's weird with Mourinho, isn't it? It just fluctuates, doesn't it? Like there never seems to be. He never seems to be just doing all right. It's either like doing amazing or doing very badly. And it's a real tough one with Roma, because Mourinho was obviously such a superstar appointment and still very much has the backing of the fans. Like at end of last season, there was a lot of talk about him potentially leaving the club, and he, made it very clear directly to the fans that he was going to stay. And a lot of members of this Roma setup have been given a lot of love as well by the fans, as they are. Roma are obviously famous for doing that, famous for giving a lot of love to players. And it always felt like this project was one where Roma were at least going to challenge for a top 4 position in Serie A, and given how competitive Serie A is now, mount a title challenge. But once again, well, maybe not once again, I think this summer has been a real sign of where the club is financially. It's like, that you bring in someone like Evan Ndika, who is actually yet to start, by the way, for reasons I'm not sure about, because I don't think he's been injured at the start of the season, but he hasn't been in the team yet. But let me know if you've
Chris Smalling, mate. That's what happens.
Well, apparently, Diego Llorente actually more accurately on that left side of the defence. I'm not sure why he's getting in the team ahead of Ndika, but maybe there's another reason which I haven't seen.
Maybe it was like the transfer. Maybe he didn't get that much Mind you, the transfer's done quite early.
Yeah, it was done fairly early. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Maybe it might just be a kind of Mourinho arbitrary reason, but either way, Ndika gets brought in on a free, great, and then Roger Ibanez is sold to Al Ahly for 30 million euros, and that's just what Roma are at the moment. They have to post a big profit in the transfer market, and yeah, I think only Inter and Atalanta actually posted a bigger profit in Serie A this summer, and Inter and Atalanta are far more established in terms of Atalanta. I know they've not qualified for the Champions League for the past couple of seasons, but before that were a force in the Champions League, and also there isn't as much pressure on them to qualify for the Champions League given the way that club operates. Roma, with the superstar manager like Mourinho, who's been given a remit to qualify for the Champions League on a limited budget, they're not as cut out for it. They need to build squad depth year on year. And while, the Aouar free signing, great, absolute snip. Ndika, great. Belotti last season, now actually coming into the team, great. Lukaku on loan, given Tammy Abraham's injury problems, I think that's absolutely fine. They've sold so much talent as well. Nemanja Matic going to Rennes for 2.5 million euros. Volpato, one of their best young players, going to Sassuolo. It feels like one step forward, two steps back in the way that Roma have had to conduct themselves. They just don't have very much depth, and that's what worries me more, I think, rather than their early season form. Their early season form has meant that there's already a 6-point gap between them and Lecce in fourth. So already they're playing catch up after 3 games. And the fact that there isn't much squad depth, exacerbated by injury problems, the fact that like someone like Renato Sanchez, who I think on paper great signing, I think he would suit some Mourinho system really, really well, but he has injury problems as well, just means that it's hard to see it. I can't count on them being a favourite for the top 4 this year, and it's imperative that they make it because their financial issues have stemmed from continually not being able to make the Champions League. So yeah, I do despair a little bit, despite this only being 3 games in. Like this month they've got Empoli, or after the international break they've got Empoli, Torino and Genoa. Empoli bottom of the league. They've obviously got to win that game. Torino and Genoa are already above them. They've already both won games. Genoa strengthened considerably in the summer after coming up. Torino are a pretty decent lower mid-table Serie A club at this point. They're not easy games. They're not easy games at all, especially for a team that is now low on confidence. And Dybala's now injured. Belotti, good brace against Salernitana on the opening day, but he's only averaging 2 shots a game. That's just not good enough, I don't think, in this Roma setup, especially when the midfield actually is really, really productive creatively, like Lorenzo Pellegrini, Bove, even Brian Cristante's creating over 2 chances a game. So really what Mourinho needs is Lukaku to come in and really, hit the ground running, and that's a lot of pressure on Lukaku given everything this summer, given that it took him a long time to find his feet back into last year as well. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure on the kind of big superstar players at this club, especially with Dybala out. I'm not sure when he's due back, but that will have a big bearing on how their autumn goes, I feel. So yeah, there are a lot of reasons to be concerned at Roma. I don't want to be, completely fatalistic, but already, I don't think there are going to be many in Italy who are like, oh yeah, Roma, tipping them to finish 4th.
Yeah, no, it does feel like a long shot, which is, a little bit bizarre. And also, Roma used to consistently finish in the top 4 every year about a decade ago. They'd even finished second and third quite a few times, under Spalletti. They reached the Champions League semi-finals. I think it was in 2017-18 when they beat Barcelona under Eusebio Di Francesco. And these are managers with not, at the time at least, Spalletti's probably got a better reputation now, but weren't in anywhere near Mourinho's league when he arrived at Roma. So I think that huge spending in that first summer is having repercussions to this day. Like having over £100 million net spend in Italy is crazy, especially with the effects of the pandemic as well. So they are still recovering from Mourinho's lavish first-year spending, as a lot of clubs seem to do. Right, Henry, let's move over to France now and talk about Mortier's Tie B, a series of number suggestion of Lyon, because arguably having an even worse time.
Oh, this is a problem. They are in a really bad way. I didn't realise just how bad it was just looking into it. They're bottom of Ligue 1, and that is crazy after 4 games. Extraordinary scenes after their defeat to PSG last weekend. 4-1 at home. I think they're 4-0 down at half-time. It's the second time they've lost 4-1 at home this season already. The other one coming against Montpellier, which is not good. Also lost to Brest, which, once again, bad defeat. The Ultras, I don't know if you guys saw it, lined up in front of the Ultras, guy with a microphone. I've never quite seen this before. So the Bad Gons, as they're known. You do not have the right to tarnish the shirt. We want to sing your name, but you need to respect the jersey. Take the losses with your head held high. That's what some of the quotes they were saying. Also, we're incredibly rude about the players that have left the club in the summer. And that is part of the problem. Like, Lyon have sold over 100 million euros worth of talent and spent 20 million euros. And their incomings are not great. Their biggest spend was on a right back from Bruges. And also got like Ainsley Maitland-Niles, which great for him, but really indicative of where Lyon are as a club right now. And you look at the net worth of the squad according to Transfermarkt, it's the 8th most expensive squad in Ligue 1 at the moment. This is Lyon. It's meant to be way higher than like of Lens, who I'll get to in a little bit later, even like Nice, etc. Like Lille, a team in huge transition, have still managed to amass a squad of greater value than Lyon. And if you look at the guys they sold this summer, I mean, losing Bradley Barcola just before the deadline to PSG is such
a deadline day, yeah.
Was it on deadline day?
Maybe the day before, yeah, crazy.
Hammer blow. Gusto, obviously, we knew he was going. Castello Luqueba, he's gone to RB Leipzig. Then you look at other kind of big names within that squad the last few years. Romain Favre, Houssam Aouar, Toko Ekambi, Moussa Dembele, all gone. It's not good. It's not good at all. This is really a squad in transition. Finished 7th last season, so I think Laurent Blanc did all right to sort of wrestle them to that point. Was basically held up by Lacazette's unbelievable output up front. He hasn't produced anything like that this year. Also, I saw that John Textor, the owner's being sued for defamation by Jean-Michel Aulas. So that's another like...
Apparently he was really enjoying every PSG goal. He was there at the weekend, Jean-Michel Aulas.
Really?
And he was like smiling every time PSG scored.
Well, I mean, I think that's really stupid, isn't it? So, I mean, say what you want. Like, it is his baby, Lyon, for a number of years.
Shouldn't be enjoying it.
He shouldn't be enjoying it in any way. I'm sure it's different. But yeah, really, really bad squad at the moment. Really poor. I think Cherki, it's like their starting 11's fine. I mean, it's crazy. Like 3 goals scored is the worst in Ligue 1. They rank 9th for shots, so they need to correct that. But then they've got the joint worst defense with Lens. You look at their back four. They've got Chaleta Sarr, who I think is pretty good. Diamondi, who's fine. He's been there for a while now, and Tagliafico as well. They should know better as a back four with Caqueret and Lepanon in front of them. There's just clearly no strength off the bench. So once they're in these losing positions, it doesn't seem like they can change them. But yeah, I mean, they've got games coming up against Le Havre. And sorry, they're playing Brest now. They lost to Strasbourg at the start. Okay. The point is, like, they have to beat Le Havre, who've got promoted from last season. They have to beat Brest too. It's just looking really a bit dire for Lyon right now. They've got no European football, and I feel like another bad year outside of the top places in Europe. And there's going to be so many questions asked about where they're going. The fans are on their backs too. So yeah, I am genuinely worried about Lyon and what they're going to do this year. I'm also worried about Lens as well, who are 17th. And I think they're kind of the victim of their own success, aren't they? Really? I mean, They sold Seko Fofana, Lois Openda, but they did spend 63 million euros this summer. They got El Yawahi in from Montpellier, Andy Diouf, he's joined from Basel. So they're the kind of two direct replacements for the players that aforementioned who have just left. But they are 17th by expected points too, which shows that their start has been really bad. Losses to Brest, PSG and Monaco, fair enough. And then a draw with Rennes too. So tough start in terms of actual their fixture list. I expect them to improve. But yeah, I mean, Lyon 15 by expensive points. They deserve to be down there. But on Lens, tough Champions League. I'm not expecting them to do anything. They're just going to enjoy the run, aren't they? In what you've described as one of the easiest, what is it? Arsenal, PSV.
Arsenal, PSV. Well, for Arsenal, it's Arsenal, PSV, Lens, and Sevilla. Who we'll get onto in a little bit. Bottom of La Liga. I mean, it's considering everything, especially considering that where Lens were last year and where Sevilla were last year, and PSV were obviously stronger last year as well. I think Arsenal got a pretty.
Well, considering the group they could have got as well. I mean, look at Newcastle,
crazy.
for example.
But Lens I expect to pick up a little bit, but Lyon, I think this is going to be a really, really tricky campaign for them on and off the pitch.
Yeah, Laurent Blanc will probably be fired in the international break, I would have thought. As bad as that is, there's been a number of managers that they've gone through now. It doesn't seem to make any difference.
He's been dealt a horrible hand.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And then Lens, I was watching the highlights of their game against Monaco at the weekend. For a side that were built on a really solid defence last year, they looked all over the place. A little bit worrying there. Although I expect they'll have a better season long term than Lyon. Right, let's move on to Tommy69K's suggestion of Dortmund. They too have had an average start to the season. 1-0 win versus Köln, then a 1-1 draw away at Bochum, and a 2-2 draw with Heidenheim, who've just been promoted, who are doing really well.
Bosh.
Your guys outside shout.
I watched the second half.
First goal was great.
Completely fell apart. Against Heidenheim. It's inexcusable, really.
Yeah, I mean, Seb Haller giving away a late penalty. There's a little bit of a debate about whether it should have been done for offside. Personally, I felt like he was under control of the ball and playing the striker back on. So, fair penalty. And they're already 4 points off Leverkusen and Bayern too. And considering they've only played 3 games, a little bit concerning. They've got a goal difference of +1. Leverkusen, for example, is +5. I'm glad we went so hot on Leverkusen at the start of the season because they do look like the most natural challengers to Bayern this season. Huge game after the international break on that Friday night. Leverkusen, I think, travelling to Bayern or hosting Bayern. Forgive me for not remembering, but absolutely massive. And obviously we know who Dortmund lost in the summer. It was always going to be really difficult. Jude Bellingham, you've seen the talent, you've seen his ability to instantly adapt to a club the calibre of Real Madrid, but obviously Rafael Guerreiro leaving too. Last year, Haaland, Akanji, the year before that, Sancho. Just an absolute talent drain, and it does eventually catch up with you. Actually, Felix Mendilibar has actually started not too bad, but, he's been in and out of the side. He was on the bench for one of their games, I believe. Sabitzer again, but that is just a huge totemic figure to replace. Not just his ability, but also his leadership ability as well. I mean, Bellingham was Dortmund last year, and Rafael Guerreiro's output towards the end of the year was absolutely superb as well. They were both in Dortmund's 4 most used players, so 2 huge figures in that dressing room. And in terms of their stats, they're 6th for shots per game. Their pass accuracy has dropped from 2nd to 6th. Their shots conceded, have gone from 12.1 per game to 15th. That's only 9th best. So they're in mid-table. They're in mid-table statistically as well. It's not a complete disaster. It's early days, but given the calibre of teams they've faced so far, you'd expect them probably to have 9 points on the board. And instead, they've got, 5, which is not a total disaster, as I say, but just not where we want them to be. Feels like emotionally, maybe the results of the final day of last year, that incredible opportunity to win that first Bundesliga title since 2012, that's a huge blow. And you were telling me earlier, Henry, that there's chat around Edin Terzic as well, or speculation around him.
This is the year where he has to prove himself as a manager. I think last year, given the injuries that happened at Dortmund, various changes in the squad, I think first year as sort of being roped back in, I think you can give him bandwidth to kind of be Terzic. But then this year, he's really got to define himself. Like, who is he as a manager? And there's been a big power battle in terms of the transfers. The Edson Alvarez deal, it's Terzic that ultimately turned around and said, no, we shouldn't be spending that money. I want to make Emre Can my holding midfielder, and I want to make him captain. When Kiel and Watzke have been spending all summer trying to negotiate this deal for Alvarez. It was a long time that they were talking about this. So and if he can't, if he's made a direct input into the transfers, and apparently he was the one pushing in Mecha as well, he wanted him to get him over the line. If he's had such a big impact in the transfers, then it's on him to make sure the team has an identity on the pitch, is playing a certain style of football. And if they're being vulnerable and losing leads to Heidenheim, then Dortmund deserve a super coach. They should be. They are the second biggest team in Germany. Normally pretty comfortable.
Very attractive to clubs, to managers around the world.
If you look at Brighton getting De Zerbi, realistically, someone like Dortmund should be getting
get Graham Potter through the door.
Yeah, I'm not even joking. They should. He is under serious pressure because it is such. If Dortmund had a bit of balls about them, they could go out and get a seriously good manager. And it's just, I just think this is the year. Like, there is pressure growing on his head. He's clearly like ruffling sort of management level feathers. So they've got to do something. Just quickly on Bellingham, I did hear that apparently a lot of the dressing room found him quite annoying.
Oh, I'm not surprised. Because he's bossing them around.
There's that video of him telling Schultz that he's crap.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Schultz did get
bloke's 12 years older than him.
Apparently, like they prefer Sabitzer as a bloke.
I'm not surprised. Sabitzer seems very calm and sort of Austrian, whereas Bellingham's like full of fire. But a leader, and he can back it up with his ability as well. The
Doing
only
it
thing,
out of Bernabeu, so
the only thing. Well, another thing that I was slightly concerned about was the signing of Nicholas Füllkrug on deadline day, or the day before deadline day. Didn't make a lot of sense to me when you've got Seb Haller. Yes, he had obviously not just an injury last year, but that cancer scare. Maybe that's going to affect his fitness throughout this year.
African Cup of Nations as well.
Oh, good point, actually. But they do still have Adeyemi, who can play down the middle. They've got Moukoko. I just get the feeling that Edin Terzic and Moukoko's not quite synced up, because I think Moukoko, on the minutes he's played in a Dortmund shirt, should probably be getting more. It should at least be the backup now, whereas now it's going to be Füllkrug. So I'm a little bit concerned by that. But anyway, that is the situation at Dortmund. Let's move on to Sevilla and Nathan Wesley's suggestion. McCubs, do you want to talk about Sevilla?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of, hope around Sevilla, wasn't there, towards the end of last season? Obviously getting...
Beat you guys?
Yeah, beat United.
David De Gea
handed David De Gea his arse. Probably easily the worst performance of his professional career, bless him. But obviously won the Europa League, beating Roma to do so, beating a really good Roma side to do so, and Mendilibar came in March and had a really instantaneous effect on that side. They looked so bad throughout the season. He was the third appointment of the season, or at least the third manager during the season, and given how hapless they looked for much of the campaign, turned it around so well. And but it now seems like maybe that was just a bit of a bounce. The summer they've had has been poor. Obviously, Monchi left for Aston Villa as sporting director, but equally, they are once again feeling the effects of what was a decline in his recruitment strategy. We've obviously spoken about it. We've obviously spoken a lot about Monchi's kind of decline as a recruiter on this channel. I think Pat spoke really well on him a few weeks ago. Henry, you've been one of his a fairly kind of outspoken critic of him as well. Like his.
I love the fact he's got probably a dartboard in his house. Henry and Pat's face.
Potentially, there's no way we're getting any access to Villa players this season. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, Henry? I think that €100 million spend under Mourinho was like the end of his legacy. Like crossover. It's like
was he still there when Mourinho came in?
Well, there was. I think he just left, and there was like a transitional guy in who then sanctioned a lot of those transfers. It's just interesting how like sporting directors can really have such a difficult impact on.
Absolutely,
like crazy impact.
I mean, look, it's just recruitment, full stop, isn't it? And if. I think maybe Monchi gets a lot of heat because he was so well regarded. He really was the kind of the sporting director that everyone looked up to in the 2010s and before that. What he did with Sevilla over those first 16, 17 years was genuinely remarkable, and we don't need to get into the reasons why. I think Pat brought up the fact that he used the French market a lot. That has now been tapped into by bigger, richer clubs in England and Germany. So that was a kind of edge that he used to have and no longer has. But anyway, he's gone now. But the recruitment in the summer wasn't good enough, and they sold a lot of players as well. Papu Gomez left, Osama Idrissi, Montiel. Thomas Delaney, Bono obviously has left as well. One of the best keepers in Spain, and they just didn't bring in enough talent, did they? Gibril So, Dodi Luca Bacchio. Luca Bacchio, I can see having a good impact in La Liga. Loic Bardet, who was on loan last year, their net spend wasn't particularly high. Obviously, they got Sergio Ramos in. Great. He's a spiritual leader. He is
very romantic.
He is. A Sevilla boy. Boubacar Samare in on loan as well. Mariano Diaz. These aren't bad players, but it's still, there doesn't seem to be an overarching
plan
kind of plan there. And yeah, it's played out in the opening weeks of the season. They've lost to Valencia, Alaves, and Girona. Okay, Girona are a really good team, I think. Are they third or fourth in the league right now? They're level on points with Barca.
Eighth, ninth last
year. And they did some excellent recruitment in the summer. They were one of the best attacking teams in La Liga last year and made some brilliant signings. Yangel Herrera has kicked things off kind of predictably really, really well there in midfield. But Valencia and Alaves are, those are sides that Sevilla should not be losing to, especially given their form at the end of last year. They're rated 19th by expected points, although they have played a game less. So, especially with that kind of sample size, expected points is almost a little bit harsh because it would fluctuate. So it fluctuates so much in the opening weeks of the season. But nevertheless, they still lost 3 games. That game against Atletico was called off, although would they have not lost that game? Atletico Madrid are really, really good. I think we could be, if they had played that game, I think potentially we would be looking at an even sorrier picture. So things aren't great at Sevilla. Do I think they're going to go down? No, but they finished 12th last year in the end. That Europa League victory was great. And in one-off games and knockout games, there are still players in that team who can produce. But over the course of a La Liga season, they're still way off the mark, I think. And it's going to be, I think, 12th needs to be the minimum where they finish this season. They should really be finishing in the top half, and they should really be going for European spots. At the moment, they look off the pace in that regard.
100%. To stick in La Liga just quickly, New Age purists suggested Villarreal. Now, they've already taken the decision. We talked about Laurent Blanc. They've already decided to fire Quique Setien. They did so on Tuesday after a shambolic performance, according to reports and according to highlights, against Cadiz on Friday night. They lost 3-1 away from home. Pedraza got sent off for a headbutt. Jeremy Pino sort of fell over when he was through on goal. Jorgensen gave away a pretty sloppy penalty as well. They've now got 1 win from 4 games this season, which included a 2-1 defeat to Betis, a 1-0 win versus Mallorca, and then that 4-3 defeat to Barcelona. It might on paper look a little bit harsh because that Barcelona game was hugely entertaining, and I remember the Betis game on the opening weekend as well was pretty good as well. At least it was fairly balanced, but the signs are there that things are sort of progressing in a downward trajectory. I did actually have them as my flop of La Liga, mainly because I didn't like their wing talent, but it actually seems like defensively there's more issues than going forward. I mean, only Rayo Vallecano, Getafe and Almeria are conceding more shots per game than them. But supposedly this actually comes about through more his management of the dressing room. I was reading a report in Football España, which is a website well worth looking at, from Rory Barlow, who I think is their football editor. And he was saying that although they got to 5th last year, I think he took over after Unai Emery departed and they were in 9th, and they got to the knockout stage of the Europa League before losing to Anderlecht. There were actually reports after a few weeks of his reign that he was going to be fired because he didn't get along with key members of that dressing room. I think Dani Parejo said that he didn't particularly like him, or that they were struggling to get along. He also sort of pushed Raul Albiol and Etienne Capoue to one side, which, might sound shocking, but Raul Albiol's also in his mid-30s. Capoue,
not mid, I think he's late 30s.
Late 30s. You do need to eventually move on from these guys, but maybe it was how he managed it or how he soothed their egos, etc. So, Quique Setien gone. Villarreal, I think, will recover to have an absolutely fine season. But, definitely included in this for now because it's not been good at all. Henry, we've got Ajax, we've got Gladbach down here. Who do you want to talk about next?
I'll go for Ajax because I think it's an interesting suggestion by @AwayAngard. And I didn't realise just quite how dramatic the overhaul of the club has been this year. I mean, they finished 3rd last year, which was disastrous. I think their spell under Schroeder was their worst in 20 years before he was let go. And they've 13 points off Feyenoord at the end. It's just not Ajax, really. Johnny Heitinger was the manager. He was not retained. He's now on the West Ham coaching staff.
Is he?
Which I
missed that.
Yeah, that's what I saw today. So him, Kudus and Alvarez have gone to West Ham, which is quite nice. And they brought in Maurice Stein, who actually quite like this. 49 years old. He's earned this opportunity. He's worked his way up the Dutch ranks. ADO Den Haag, VVV Venlo, NAC Breda, and then Sparta Rotterdam last year, who got to 6th. that was an amazing season for Sparta Rotterdam. I wrote about them in like 10 underdog clubs punching for greatness.
Go on, Henry.
So yeah,
saw it all
it's
coming.
good to see Stein. Oh mate, all over it. Yeah, so it's good to see him there. But the entire board resigned in the summer, which is kind of crazy.
I actually missed that. Why? They were just unhappy.
Well, I think it's the end of an era.
A new era.
Yeah, exactly, and that's happened with, if you look at like the outgoings, obviously Timber, Alvarez, and Kudus. They're like the big money departures. Then you see like Dusan Tadic, who was such a stalwart of their midfield creativity. He cancelled his contract, citing a lack of quality in the squad, which is quite intriguing to then go to Fenerbahce after saying that.
You also had Edwin van der Sar in hospital after that really horrific accident.
Absolutely.
Mark Overmans being fired for sexual misconduct. Wow. It's been a crazy few years.
Yeah, it has been. And then Klaassen as well, he's gone to Inter Milan. Vindal, he's left on loan to, I think it's Royal Antwerp actually. So yeah, and then they've spent 100.
I hyped that guy so hard.
Yeah, I know. When I saw that earlier, I was like, oh dear. I even had to double check it wasn't his brother or something like that. I thought it was maybe a different Vindal. But anyway, they've spent 108 million euros on 12 new players. You know, some serious incoming. Sutalo from Dinamo Zagreb, really hyped up centre half there. Chuba Akpom, he's had a great kind of renaissance. What a career he's had. To go from Borough now to Ajax. Branko van der Boomen, which we're very excited about, and Borna Sosa. I didn't realise that he'd gone there from Stuttgart. And then they've got this guy Georges Mikatatse from FC Metz, who got like 23 goals last year for the French side, so he's pretty handy too. But the point is, if you look at their opening game of the season, their last game against Fortuna Sittard, 6 of the 11 players are new, and like it's a completely different Ajax side, and I think that's translated into their early form. I mean, played 3, 1-1, drawn 2 is fine, isn't it? But they've won against Heracles and drawn against Sittard and Excelsior. You're expecting them to win those games, really. And then if you look at the top of the division, RZ, PSV and Twente have all won their first 3 games, setting the early pace. So Ajax are a bit off it. But that said, they are like fine. They're second for shots on target, 5th for shots on target against. So they should be okay. They've got a lot of young guys in there who are now meant to be like pulling the strings. Tahirovic, who they got from Roma, and Carlos Borges, who's apparently very exciting from Manchester City. These are young guys who haven't played a load of first-team football, who have gone in there.
Borges was also wanted by West Ham, so good to get one over West Ham. In the emerging rivalry of European football, Ajax versus West Ham.
Absolutely. I mean, they've got the Eredivisie, to its credit, is getting really smart at pinching these youngsters and saying, "Look, come here. We can give you like loads of game time." They've got their fun Europa League group against Marseille, AEK Athens. When the last time those two met was a real like riot in the stands, and then Brighton. So that's going to be tricky. There's no guarantees they get out of that group.
I don't know who wins
at this point, but like from what I was reading,
Marseille have got to be the favourites in that, haven't they?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But from what I was reading, the signs there that they can play quite a dynamic attacking style. They just need their young players to blend together. It's a shake-up from top to bottom. Ajax. It's a quite literal shake-up. It's a very unrecognisable squad compared to what it was. Like Ajax really managed to elevate themselves into almost like B category of European football for a bit. I'd say not quite top.
10.5,
yeah, and I think they've had to kind of hit the reset button a little bit. I don't think that means they're going to have a bad campaign. I just think it's going to be a bit stuttering. But yeah, give Steins a chance to show what he can do because he's earned his opportunity.
I mean, it depends what you say is a bad campaign for Ajax, because a bad campaign for Ajax is not winning the league, really. Like, they are by far the biggest club in the Netherlands. I know PSV and Feyenoord are huge as well, but given Ajax's history, but equally, yeah, I do agree. Like, Stein is, it's his first huge job like this, and given the shake-up at the club, he should be given time. But I don't know, like a top 2 finish is going to be tough given this kind of transition and yeah, Europe as well. They'll definitely want a big run in Europe, but it also felt like it was maybe coming, like the ability that Ten Hag had to renew that squad despite selling all that talent year on year. It was always going to catch up eventually, I think. And yeah, like the managers who've been hard since have just had a huge job on their hands, haven't they? Like, I think it's just hard to know exactly where the goals are going to come from in this Ajax side, given that Tadic, Kudus,
Brian
and even someone like Davy Klaassen, like, who left in the summer, who was quite influential in that attack. But I like the Borna Sosa signing. Like, I think that was well overdue. Him being signed by Ajax.
Yeah. Fair enough. Oh, we didn't talk about Gladbach, sorry.
Okay.
But we actually talked about them quite a lot in the summer. They lost a lot of talent for freeze, basically. Thuram leaving, Ben Spaini leaving, Lars Stindl leaving as well. Gerardo Simeone is a good manager, though, so I hope he does.
Yeah, also, they've 2 of their games have been against Leverkusen and Bayern, so it's hard to judge them just yet, I think.
If you had to pick one team who you're most worried about,
who
would
question,
that be?
Henry?
Because I'll kick off. I'm most worried about Lyon. Like, that is the team I'm genuinely slightly concerned about, even though they had a bad season last year.
Against expectations, as in they won't finish the lowest in their table, but I think Dortmund might have a really quite disappointing campaign.
Yeah, I'll go Sevilla. I think Sevilla, like it's been easy to worry about Sevilla over the last
year.
Ramos
coming in.
Well, yeah, hopefully Ramos can do something, but he is also quite old and injury prone. So yeah, I think it's a lot of pressure on Ramos to turn fortunes around there. I think they're on a right team, but like I wouldn't be overly surprised if Sevilla finished in the bottom half once again, which is just not good enough.
There we have it. Lyon, Sevilla and Dortmund, the sides we are most worried about. Guys, let us know which sides you're most worried about in the comments. And let's move on to our big match predictions, which is mainly this week quickfire questions.
It's just quickfire questions.
I know, but I'm giving the score up.
Yeah, cool.
Right, to clarify, it's international break. We never do big match predictions for international break. I'm not really sure why, but it gives us a little bit of a break.
Nah.
And I can update you with the scores from last week. So Roma versus Milan. Henry went 1-1. McCubs went 3-2 Milan. I went 2-1 Milan. It was 2-1. So 3 points to me. 1-2 McCubs. Gladbach versus Bayern. We all backed Bayern, but it was only 2-1. Gladbach, actually, I forgot, had such an incredible record against Bayern recently. Only 2-1. It was that game
took the lead as well.
Took the lead.
You
didn't really reflect it though. They had about 10%
the
possession.
fans were like almost laughing. They're like, I don't think they could believe they were ahead against Bayern again. Yeah.
But yeah, none of us saw that exact scoreline coming, so it's just 1 point. All of us. Then Napoli versus Lazio. We all backed Napoli, and it was 2-1 to Lazio. Great goal from Kamada as well. His first in the Lazio shirt.
I know about it though. The first goal was like
that was really nice as well. Well done, Lazio. They've actually got quite a good record against Napoli. I think they beat them at home last year as well. Right, so that's no points on that one. So scores are as follows going into the international break to be carried into next week. McCubbs is on 8, I'm on 6, and Henry's on 5. Absolutely nail biter after 2 weeks. All doing quite well, actually.
Yeah, not doing badly at all.
So instead of big match predictions, we're going to do maybe a few quickfire questions. First one we've got in is from Saturnian13. He says, with many Serie A teams maintaining their quality, do you expect them to do just as well in Europe this season, or was it a one-off? Henry, what's your inkling on this?
Well, first and foremost, I think the AC Milan group of death is tough for them. I think I do back Newcastle because they'll be riding that kind of new Champions League wave, which we've seen a lot of clubs. Some like Leicester when they did pretty well in the competition. It's tricky, but
their home results have to be good.
Yeah. Well, Milan, they could get through, but I certainly think PSG are coming out of that group, and it's up to the other 3 to scrap it out.
Sure.
Inter Milan, I'm more positive on. I'm really positive on Inter Milan in general. I think they're doing so well, and I think with a front 2 of Lautaro, who is I saw you tweet about him the other day. He's cooking, like a rocket, as they say. Yeah. And then Thuram as well, off the mark, and looks like he's got a good relationship with Lautaro. I don't know if you saw, like, he tried to do the Lukaku celebration with Lautaro, and Lautaro said no. He was like, we don't do that anymore. And
really?
Nice.
Fair enough.
That's a great play to the curve.
The Lula.
Yeah.
He said, I don't follow him on socials anymore. He said it's over.
Done.
Like, move on. So
wait.
No, it's more like Lukaku's not here anymore. He's like,
But I thought you said Lautaro's just unfollowed him on social media.
Yeah. Oh. So he's really, he's taken.
Right. Oh, so it's like we don't we don't do that celebration.
He's Il Capitano now.
Oh, I thought it was out of respect for what their former partnership was. Oh, wow.
It's out of respect for the Inter fans.
That's spicy.
It's like,
it's what you have to do though if you're an Inter captain. Like, Inter fans feel wronged by Lukaku.
Yeah. I get it.
No,
I get it.
I just quite enjoyed it. What other Italian teams are in Europe? Let me just.
Lazio are in the Champions League.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to do very well.
Such a new team as well.
Their group's okay. What is it? Celtic.
Can't remember.
Gosh, sorry guys, but yeah, Lazio. They got out of their group last time. They did surprise. Yes, I do. In the long short of it is, I do think that they're going to be all right in Europe. We saw what Fiorentina got to the Conference League final last year. I certainly think that in any of the major competitions, you're going to see an Italian threat running through it. So yeah, I'm pretty upbeat on. I still back Roma to have a good run in Europe because that's just their competition through and through. So I back them to do pretty well in the Conference League.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the managers a little bit as well, doesn't it? Roma, obviously great run last season. Mourinho, really good tournament manager. Inzaghi, great tournament manager. Obviously took into the final last year. They've got a more favourable group than the other Italian clubs in the Champions League. Napoli have got to get past. Well, they don't have to get past Real Madrid necessarily, but they've got Real Madrid, Union Berlin, Braga. Not an easy group. I think Union Berlin have it in them to cause a couple of upsets, as we saw in the Bundesliga many times last season, and they recruited really well in the summer. And then who's the other? Lazio. That's it. Yeah, Lazio have a fairly tough group as well. So yeah, I think Inter probably the best placed, and Atalanta in the Europa League as well. It would be really nice. It'd be really nice to see Atalanta go on a run this year.
Just seeing Roma's group, they've got Sheriff, Servette, and Slavia Prague in the Europa League. Like come on,
yeah. The thing that you've always got, I suppose you've got to think about this, is which other nations' clubs are going to do better than they did last year. And you've probably got to go with Barcelona, probably going further than they did last year. They're definitely going to get out of their group. You'd have thought Atletico Madrid were pretty disappointing. They didn't get out of their group either. So that might affect the Italian teams going deep. But I'm kind of with you guys. I'm reasonably positive about them. Right, Mortier Ty B's suggestion, or has asked rather, Isco is so back. What do you think about his return?
So back.
He's not just back, he's so back, Henry.
He's back, baby. Yeah, no, I'm really pleased for him. I think Betis is just, as we saw Villarreal when he went there, I think it's just quite a nice club. I think it's...
Good lads there.
I listen, him trying to move to Union didn't work out, obviously. I think staying in Spain at this point is probably the best thing for him, and he's gone to a great club. And they're quite forgiving to 30-year-olds. That's what I was thinking. When you look at it, they've often had quite a lot of elder statesmen.
Well, they played Joaquin till he was 50.
Yeah, they did. So even what was it, Cuadrado? He was there for a long time as well. So yeah, I mean, he's looked like their best player across every game so far, and I think they really wanted Husamawa, and that didn't get over the line. So to got Isco and sort of given him confidence and license. I mean, fair credit to Pellegrini, because he was the one that really pushed this signing over the line. He wanted him, and I think it just looks like Isco needed a loving arm around him, and he's got that now. It's staggering that he was out of football for so long as sort of a free agent. So yeah, I'm really pleased for him, and Betis have been okay so far. Not the best start, not the worst start, but you kind of expect that from them at this point in time. So yeah, I think it's just the perfect club for him at the right time. And you look at the Spanish national team, it's not amazing across I mean, midfield is a bit better than certainly in defence, but they've added Yamin in, who's a 16-year-old. He is willing to give opportunities to wild card players, and if Isco can get right firing again, I don't see any reason why he can't re-establish himself sort of at the top level of Spanish football.
I mean, yeah, let's not get too overexcited because it's 3 games. It'll be good to see how he what he's like in 6 months' time, because he has lacked a lot of game time over the last few years. But if you're looking just purely at the kind of the trajectory of his career up until he kind of lost his way, if we rewinded ourselves back to 2018 and asked everyone what kind of player is Isco going to be when he's 31 years old, I think most of us would have said, oh well, he's probably going to still be one of the best midfielders in Europe. He was back in 2017-18, I would say he was maybe Spain's preeminent midfield force. He was so good. There was a real Iniesta-ness about him, wasn't there? And he was brilliant for Real Madrid, brilliant for Spain. In terms of his actual, in terms of where he should be as a midfielder physically and in terms of his skill level, he's still at a good age. He could still have, there is every chance that he has a major career revival because he technically has all that ability and he's shown it before. So yeah, I would love Isco to have have that kind of revival at Betis, and they probably need it because Betis are another club that haven't been able to spend money. Should be challenging for European places.
There we have it. Vamos Isco indeed. Right, finally, Pow07 says, which players do you wish were signed by their club earlier, e.g. Thiago Silva or Cavani, etc.? From a personal perspective, I wish Sunderland had signed Bolo Zenden earlier.
Oh, nice.
Bolo Zenden was great for Sunderland. Absolutely loved him. Similar to Jermaine Defoe, actually. I'd love him to have arrived in his late 20s rather than his early 30s. The first time around, he was a bit of a snake the second time around, but I still love him. McCubs, Henry?
I've got an answer.
Zoltan Gira.
No, similar ilk.
Damien Duff.
Georgios Karagounis.
I forgot he played for Fulham.
Absolutely loved that Greek terrier.
The bow legs.
Yeah, he was part of the 2004 Euros team.
Yeah.
And we got him pretty late on. He was class. We got 2 years out of him. He was brilliant. Such a little bull terrier. Who's the old Valencia manager?
Which one? They've had so many. Gary Neville?
Who's the classic AC Milan?
Nuno, I don't know who you mean. Nuno.
Who was fired last year?
Gattuso.
Gattuso. Yeah, sorry. Gustavo is what I kept thinking in my head. But yeah, he was like Gattuso and just.
It's interesting that to describe Gattuso, you went with former Valencia manager.
Rather than Champions League winning AC Milan midfielder.
Wow, there we go. But yeah, I was lost in the Karagounis world. So yeah, he was wicked, man. I really, really liked him.
McCurbs?
I think almost any striker signed by Man United over the last 5 years was world class at one point in their career. Lots of aging strikers at United. I'm trying to think of other clubs around Europe though, where
youngest Zlatan would have been fun.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at Barcelona's. Zlatan falls into that category, and you could look at Barcelona's transfers over the last few years. Could you imagine a prime Gundogan going to Barcelona in 2016? As they were trying to transition away from Xavi, all of that. Could you imagine Lewandowski going there in his prime?
A shout for United.
Yeah,
Bastian Schweinsteiger.
Yeah, that's a great shout.
There's a generation of English football fans that didn't watch any football from around Europe who think Bastian Schweinsteiger was useless.
It's amazing.
And it's just wrong.
He was one of the best midfielders of his generation.
It is so wrong.
That was a real frustrating one. And he was also actually still kind of injuries were really bad, really poor to him. He was still a very good player. I remember him being excellent for Germany at the Euros that followed and feeling very bitter about that. But yeah, I'm trying to think of other. Yeah, I can't think of.
Got Danny behind the camera. I'm trying to think of a Spurs one. Any shouts for Spurs? Edgar Davids. There we go. That's a good shout.
Van der Vaart as well. I'd like to see more of him.
He was quite young. Was he not mid-20s when he went there?
Well, I should have gone there as a teenager. So yeah.
Danny's saying late 20s. I loved Rafael van der Vaart. He's great. Although pretty spiky pundit these days. Have you guys heard him speak?
He says it how it is.
He really does. He's very Dutch. He's very Dutch indeed. But anyway, guys. That is Continental Club for this week. I hope you guys have enjoyed the show and the slightly elongated quickfire questions and the clubs that are having terrible seasons, etc. Guys, if they have enjoyed this content, what would you go recommend they watch? I'm going to ask McCubbin because Henry always hates this question.
Go watch Sunday Vibes from last week. That was really good, I thought. Just rounding up the Premier League action. If you've had enough of the European stuff, you want to get stuck back into the Premier League. Quite a similar kind of vibe to this episode, wasn't it? Kind of going through
reflective.
Yeah, going through the kind of first weeks of action. Have you got something?
Well, in my defence, I have not literally been working on Football Daily for 10 days.
Yes.
Yeah, you haven't. Yeah, go and
check
out all of Henry's lovely Photoshop edits for the US Open.
Cheers.
And other stuff that you've been doing.
That's good.
Any tennis player to watch in the next few days?
Coco Gauff. She is going for the title.
Do you think she'll win it?
I hope so. It'd be great for tennis. It'd be good for her to win. Women's is funny. Always some random name ends up winning. Like Coco Gauff.
She's like the first player in a while that is she could dominate for years. Like if she wins.
I'd love to see.
Is this because? Sorry, we're going slightly off course just for 30 seconds. Is this because it's best of 3 sets? So sometimes it's easier just for someone to have an off 2 sets and they're out. Rather than the men's game, you've obviously got to win 3. The amount of 5-set comebacks that happen when you've been 2 sets down.
Doesn't it just go through phases though, right? We've seen that in men. If Djokovic wasn't around right now, then men's tennis would also be similarly I would competitive in that way, right?
I would say it's still more or less the big players who rise up to the top of the women's game. At least 2 are in the decent.
Just feels slightly more fun and a little bit more inconsistent. But that's my take on tennis. I'm not working in the tennis team, as you can tell. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.